Thank you. Before we begin, he's had a little introduction today, but I would like to welcome Dr. Brian Sager, I think is the proper pronouncement. You can tell us how to pronounce it, Brian, in a second, to our board. I've known Dr. Sager for a while. He's the mayor of Woodstock, one of the great communities of all time, especially known for the movie which was shot there, one of my favorites of all time. But he's a great addition to the board. And as you already saw from his comments at one of the committee meetings this morning, the doctor will serve on the Planning and Administration Committee and the Compensation and Human Resources Committee. Doctor, welcome. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, please do so.
Well, thank you so much, Chair. I want to first thank you and certainly members of the board, Leanne, members of the staff, for the very warm welcome that I've already received. Had a chance to come here a couple of weeks back and become oriented to the processes and procedures, and so I'm grateful for the time that they have devoted to that. I also appreciate the opportunity to visit with regards to specific questions that I had relative to previous minutes and efforts that are being undertaken here by the board in current consideration. So everybody has been very, very congenial and very welcoming, and I'm most grateful for that. I will have to honestly admit to you that I'm originally from Southern Illinois, around Mount Vernon, so if I throw a you-all or a you-uns in here every once in a while, my apologies for that up front. It's taken my community in Woodstock quite a while to get used to that, but they have just accepted that as one of the quirks that I have. I have been in McHenry County since 1981. Felt that I would come north, as it were, to Chicago, because if you're from Southern Illinois, anything north of LaSalle is all Chicago. It doesn't matter whether it's Galena or Belvedere or Chicago proper, it's all Chicago. And my family wanted to know why I chose to move to Chicago. I tried to tell them I was moving to Woodstock, but then frankly I got up here and wondered why I moved to Chicago. The fact of the matter is that I fell in love with McHenry County and with the community and with the people and the opportunities that existed there. I think one of those reasons was the fact that I am a developmental economist by academic training, and so it was a very interesting phenomenon for me to look at the changing agrarian culture of McHenry County, the far northwest suburbs, if you will, to a more suburban type of environment. And so I was hooked by that time, and fortunately or unfortunately, was first elected to the Woodstock City Council in '89, and then subsequently as mayor of the city of Woodstock for the first term in 2005. And the people of our community have honored me and blessed me with the chance to be reelected now to my fourth term. And we have a great community. Thank you, Chairman, for your acknowledgement of Groundhog Days. That's why I don't know.
Classic.
I don't know that that's one of our greatest accomplishments or achievements, but it's certainly a very popular one. I also, one of the directors earlier mentioned the fact that he's fortunate to be able to see Woodstock on the Channel 7 news all the time, because there is a camera that's located right there in the old courthouse that allows us to show off our historic square. And it is a great community that is, as I always say, able to identify areas of need and to work to make good things happen. And that's my commitment as a mayor, is to help bring people together and to work together to make good things happen. That's my commitment here on this RTA board too, and I'm very, very pleased to have the opportunity to get to know each and every one of you and to work in a strong collaborative manner as we address the larger regional transportation needs. Thank you.
Thank you. You're a great addition from the business community out there to my political friends on both sides of the aisle. You come so highly recommended, and great addition.
Very kind. Thank you.
Thank you much. Item 3. Actually, we need to, I guess, call the roll, don't we, Madam Secretary?
That would be a good
Do that,
start.
please.
Okay. Director Anderson. Director Colson. Director DeWitt. Director Durrani. Director Fraga. Director Fuentes.
Here.
Director Higgins. Director Cotel. Director Lewis.
Here.
Director McGallis. Director Melvin.
Here.
Director Payne.
Here.
Director Ross. Dr. Sager.
Here.
Director Troiani.
Here.
Chairman Dillard.
Here.
We have a quorum of 14 present with 2 absent, and Director Troiani on the phone with the proper paperwork completed.
Great, thank you. And Doug, thanks for being on the phone. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes from the meeting that was held on April 19th, 2018, right here. Are there any questions or comments on those minutes? If not, can I have a motion and a second? Director Fuentes moves that we approve those meetings, seconded by Director John Friga. Is there, Secretary, why don't you call the roll, and we'll have a baseline roll call.
Okay. Director Colson? Yes. Director DeWitt? Yes. Director Durrani? Yes. Director Frega? Aye. Director Fuentes? Aye. Director Higgins? Aye. Director Lewis? Aye. Director McGallis? Aye. Director Melvin?
Aye.
Director Pang? Aye. Director Ross? Aye. Dr. Sager? Aye. Director Triani?
Aye.
Chairman Dillard?
Yes.
14 ayes and 2 absent.
Thank you. So the minutes are approved. Item 4 is our normal public comment segment of the meeting, and we have no scheduled speakers for today. So item 5 is the Executive Director's Report. Leanne.
Good morning, everyone. As I always wait for the presentation to come up. Hello? Presentation coming up? Maybe. We'll work on it. I'll share the numbers in the meantime. So as I always begin this presentation with what the state owes us. So as of the end of April, they owe the RTA $450.6 million in ASA. I'll be super loud so I can just talk over that. ASA, AFA, and PTF. The state is 11 months behind on the ASA side of things, 16 months behind in AFA, and the equivalent of 10.2 months behind in PTF, or the Public Transportation Fund payments to us. Year-to-date cost, as we keep tabs of carrying that short-term debt to cover this and make the service boards whole, is at $1.6 million. So, speaking of Springfield, the General Assembly, as we've already touched on, is entering the last few weeks of the spring legislative session. Each of the 4 caucuses has assigned legislators to participate in working through the budget groups to talk about a budget framework for fiscal year 19, which begins July 1st. Early reports indicate that Democrats and Republicans are opposed to raising additional revenues through state taxation to the end of this fiscal year, and the state spending obligations are expected to rise next fiscal year, with states' pension contributions increasing to $7.8 billion in 18 and $18.44 billion in FY19, fiscal year FY19. So as we're approaching the next year budget, they've got an eye on trying to manage that significant deficit. Negotiations will continue. Technically, the session ends May 31st, but they do have the ability to pass a budget up and through June 30th before the new fiscal year begins. But after May 31st, they require a 3/5 majority. So, moving on to the federal side of things. This week, actually, I was in Washington, D.C. Monday, I spent the day with APTA staff. We are already looking to reauthorization of the next federal transportation bill. I have the pleasure, maybe, of being vice chair of the National Legislative Committee for APTA. So we are working very diligently on how we strategize on what, as an industry, our goals and activities will be leading up to that bill. Then I joined, so the RTA, Jeremy came out, and we joined CTA, Metra, and PACE to make rounds of visits in Washington, a combination of meetings with our Illinois delegation, as well as meeting with USDOT, the acting FTA administrator, and other appointees from the Trump administration to talk about what our needs are, what our issues are, and really with, as well as the department, the Office of Management and Budget as well, with an eye on sort of highlighting the economic benefits of transit, making sure that they understand that transit isn't a handout. It is actually delivers a significant return on investment, and speaking also to a lot of the local initiatives and funds that our local regions put on the table to match and continue the partnership with the federal government. There's been some conversations about sort of flipping some of those relationships and putting even more burden on the locals, and so we wanted to highlight the significant amount of investment that's already made. And then with our local delegation, we were just highlighting also the projects and issues that we have going forward, just keeping them apprised and abreast of what's going on. We did have a good meeting with Representative DeFazio, who is the minority head of transportation and infrastructure. That was a good conversation, and keeping him informed of sort of broadly what we're doing and the transit industry as a whole. A couple of other little things that have happened. On May 8th, the FTA posted the final apportionments of funding covering the $13.4 billion in fiscal year 18. So the funding for our public transportation nationwide. We were able to take advantage of what we call the plus ups that the Congress approved, and that represented an increase of about 8% in funding to our local area. Or to our region, about $47 million for the next year. So that's a good thing for all the FTA grant recipients here. There's a bit more detail in the legislative report that you have at your desks as well. And then just to wrap up, 25th annual Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day was April 26th. In the past, as in the past years, we partnered with Metro, or Metro actually hosted us. I know it's a cute photo. So Metro very graciously hosted us. They do a lot more fun stuff sometimes than we do. The kids got to ride in the Metro simulator that is used for training engineers, learning how to drive trains. They met with the Metro Police Department and their K-9 unit. Then they got to come back here and see what we do. As my kids years ago told me, I don't want to go to your work. You just talk on the phone and do emails. Metro was much more fun. So we thank Metro for the support that they've given us in helping us share that day with our kids. I think it's important. It's interesting that I'm sharing this information with you today. As many of you know, this week is National Infrastructure Week. Today specifically, the American Public Transit Association names today the National Public Transportation Career Day. So perhaps this photo, you're looking at our future workforce of transit employees. And National Infrastructure Week continues this whole week. We've used our blog and our social media to promote this topic as well as our funding needs. Chairman Dillard was on WBEZ yesterday morning talking about these needs as well as our strategic plan. And I think I think now we're just going to wrap up with a quick video of that the kids did when they were here for Taking Our Kids to Work Day. That's coming. While that's loading, next month we have the actual day of our board meeting. June 21st is APTA's National Dump the Pump Day. So it's a day that the industry gets together and talks to people about, considering dumping the pump and riding transit. We'll do a promotion around the region, and we'll share more information as those details become available while this continues to think. That concludes my comments, and hopefully this will load in a second. If not, here we go.
If you had to guess how many rides people rode every day on CTA, Metro, and Pace, how many rides do you think we provide every weekday? Do you have any idea?
3,000. I have no idea. Be $300,000.
No, how many rides?
300.
Do you have an idea how many people take rides on transit every day in our area?
I think it will be 5,000.
Okay. How many people do you think ride on buses and trains in our whole region every day going to and from work? What do you think that number is?
28.
We have some more educating to do of our younger population. Maybe it's just an order of magnitude and comprehension of scale and numbers. But I'd be happy to answer any other questions that anyone may have.
FTA.
Our friend Greg is back there from the Citizens Advisory Board for item 6. With Reuben. We got to feature Reuben sometime in a video,
Yeah.
Susan.
He's a regular on transit. He even has his, we get off at Polk Street, and it's one of the few elevators that he uses, but he has his whole group of women that adore him, so they hold the elevator, please wait, so that he can ride in the elevator with him.
I love it. It's great to have you both here. Greg, it's all yours.
Good morning, Chairman Diller, directors, RTA staff, and the public. Today I'm going to give an overview of our January 16th and our April 16th meeting, because we were supposed to present in March, but you canceled the board meeting, so we're going to do a double up here. At our January meeting, we had a couple new members, and it was our first meeting of the year. Michael gave an overview of what our purpose and mission is to the new members and to refresh the memories of all the rest of us. He also went through the bylaws to indicate what our roles and responsibilities are as far as members of the RTA CAB. Afterwards, since this was our first meeting, I had asked the group, what sorts of potential items would they like to work on in the coming year. And we had a long discussion, and a couple of the items that I will mention, there were others, but we all agreed that if the RTA board needed any assistance from us as far as Reuben, as far as I tried to read my notes and it keeps moving my hand. But anyway, as far as any capital bill that comes before the legislature, if you need our assistance, we're very willing to do that. We also have had, and I know that everyone in this room has had conversations about internet sales tax and how to collect that, if there's any way that we can assist in figuring out how we best get those revenues for public transportation. And we also talked about, I know RTA and CTA and a number, they're all looking at technology as far as navigating the system. We would like to have input on the various types of technology that are out there so that the use of the technology can better assist people with disabilities and seniors. After we completed that, Karen Tamley, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, presented an overview of the taxi access program and rideshare ordinance that was passed in the city in 2015. The purpose of this ordinance was to let cab companies know that carry more than 10 medallions, they need to, for every 10 medallions, they need to have an accessible wheelchair taxi cab. The rideshare companies have also come up to the plate as far as increasing the, as they call WAV, wheelchair access taxi cabs. And as up to date, there are now over 300 available wheelchair accessible cabs out on the street, which is a really good thing. Now to go into a little bit about in our April meeting, we had asked to have a presentation by PACE on their FTA audit of paratransit that they just went through, and it was pretty comprehensive. And they informed us that the findings that were very positive, that their paratransit system, our paratransit system here, ranks very high throughout the nation. It also took a look at our eligibility procedures, and they found those eligibility procedures very thorough and a very fair process. That was presented to us by Metzger and Rosemary, and I can't say her last name right at the moment, but okay. So anyway, but it was a very positive outcome. The final thing that I want to mention, and I know that you have many details, but Mark Koljak, who's the manager of customer programs, gave us an overview of statistics through the final statistics for 2017, and they were, it was a very informative and well done presentation. Like I said, some of it you have highlights in your notes, and if you need any details, I'm sure Michael can assist in that. As part of that presentation, a couple of board members wanted to see whether or not at some point or another that as part of their statistical analysis, if they could take a look at dial-a-ride throughout the region and see how that impacts ADA, well, it's not an ADA service, but how it impacts services and how many rides they provide, so forth and so on. And the other thing that people were interested in was the other thing. The other thing that people were interested in was to find out whether or not whether or not ride share, what impact ride share and taxi access use has on using the paratransit system. Our next meeting is in July, and that's the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Great. Any questions of Greg? If not, we'll keep an eye on that, and really watch what the rideshare impact is on ADA paratransit. And anything you pick up, Greg, that we ought to know about that, let Michael or myself or the staff know. Michael Vandercreek, if you would. Thank you very much.
I heard your comment, and I'll talk to Michael a little bit more about it. I heard your comment right when I came in about Medicare services from some new provider. Was it Uber? Oh, okay.
Yeah, in fact, Greg, Michael, I just sent during the meeting. I sent it to you. Will you get that to Greg? I forwarded it on to the staff during the meeting.
Okay.
The article that and we just need to watch it and monitor it very carefully. Thank you. I'll make sure you get it, Greg. Thank you. Thanks, Reuben. All right. Item 7 is the approval of consent items as they appear on the board agenda. And these items include 7A, which is the resolution certifying the financial results for the first quarter of 2018, the ordinance of 2019's budget call, which is 7B. 7C is the ordinances authorizing the contracts for the enterprise resource planning, the ERP software implementation, and related services. Is there any comments or questions on these? If not, Director Pang moves, seconded by Director Ross, that we approve 7A, 7B, and 7C. Is there leave for the attendance roll call on these?
14 ayes and 2 absent.
Super, thank you, and they will be so reported. Item 8 is the approval of contract and expenditure items as they appear on the board agenda. These include 8A, which is the authorization. I think there was a little discussion last month of new laptops for the RTA staff to replace some of the equipment that they have. It's about 111 or 115 items there. 8B is the ordinance authorizing the purchase of excess liability insurance policies by the RTA Loss Finance Plan Joint Self-Insurance Fund. I know Leanne was over in London with our broker on these recently. 8C is an ordinance authorizing the intergovernmental agreements, the IGA with the CTA, for the purchasing of the RTA Fare Card stock. 8D is the ordinance authorizing a contract for energy CAP or CAP hosting services. And 80 is travel expenses for board members as they're required under the new state laws. Is there a motion? Any questions on those? If not, Director Lewis, you have a question?
Just one quick question. Do we donate the old laptops to like CPS or some not-for-profit organizations to be used, or how do we dispose of them?
So there's a formal oh look, mine works. There's a formal protocol for I don't need it anymore. Anyway, there's a formal protocol for disposing of equipment. It includes, of course, what can we sell, what can we donate. If neither one will work, and our stuff is pretty old, so unfortunately school stuff is more modern than some of our stuff. But all of that, there's a formal protocol, and if none of that works, then they're completely disposed of, wiped clean, through a formal removal of all data and so forth, and then they're disposed of. But we do all of that.
Good question. Thank you. Can I have a motion in a second? Director Lewis moves, seconded by Director Melvin, that we approve what I call the eights. Dr. Sager, you have
Just
a question?
point of clarification on 8D, this ordinance authorizing contract for energy cap, that is as revised in the staff report. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I think you were all sent that by email. Yes, thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
Brian, for. Okay, their leave for the attendance roll call on the items on 8. So they will be reported,
14 ayes and 2 absent.
Thank you, Audrey. Item 9 is new business. Any new business today? Yes, Director Fraga.
I was selected to be on the honor flight on May 9th. And the honor flight for veterans. And I want to endorse that honor flight. It was just great. It couldn't be better. That was the 84th honor flight from Chicago. 10 years they've been doing it, and now they're honoring the Korean War vets. I think next is going to be the Vietnam vets. We returned to Midway. We started at 4 o'clock in the morning, returned to Midway at about 10 o'clock. We were an hour late, and it was a good thing that we landed in Midway because there were 200 sailors from Great Lakes down there to greet us. It was quite an experience.
It's awesome, and if you've never seen one of these or greeted them, did you get letters at the end of your trip as sort of a surprise?
We got mail call.
Right.
I was the most senior officer on board, and I represented the Navy, so it was quite a deal.
That is awesome, John. Thank you and Director Durante and all the veterans for your service. No, that is, honor flights are just what a great idea that is, and it's wonderful. Thank you very much for your service, and thanks for making our day with that news. Our next board meeting, it's hard to believe it will be June already, but Thursday, June 21st at 2018, with committee meetings beginning here at 8:30, followed by the regular board meeting. And item 10, our last item, and then we'll have a motion to adjourn, is we're going to go into executive session, and if Nadine, can you cite the exceptions why we're going into a closed session, please?
Sure. If the board would vote to adjourn from executive session, we could then move into that portion of the meeting pursuant to subsections 2C11, 2C5, and 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act.
Great, thank you. So with that, there's a motion by Director Sager, seconded by Director DeWitt, that we resolve ourselves into executive session, and it'll also be the motion to adjourn the regular meeting since we will have no further business before us. Is there leave for the attendance roll call? Seeing no objection, leave is granted, and we'll go into executive session across the hall, and I'll see everybody on June 21st again. Thank you.